opening that up to discussion, or are we just reviewing it?
Let you go ahead.
Okay. In regards to this response by Lee Bragg, first of all, we don't know what the conversation was because we didn't see the first part of the conversation. We're only seeing his response to what he summarized from the phone conversation. On part one, where it says the warrant for the November referendum includes 3 questions for the ballot, these questions have been placed on the warrant because of prior board discussions. In regards to the wind ordinance question that was placed on the ballot, the wind ordinance that was discussed at prior boards is not the same document that the people would be voting on if we went with the recommended changes that legal recommendation had advised, which were in the wind ordinance itself. It's a 34-page document that was sent to Kristen Collins, Esquire of Kelly and Collins. This interpretation is by Lee Bragg. But when the wind ordinance was sent to Kristen Collins, it was a 34-page document. 27 of those pages have numerous recommended legal changes, additions, deletions, etc., side notes throughout the entire document. What this ballot question is asking the people to vote on is the wind ordinance without the recommended legal changes. So if we put this to the people, that particular question to the people, they're voting on an ordinance that's a flawed ordinance, which was the discussion the town manager and I had. And in my email that I sent, did all of you receive that email that I sent? I wrote in there that I would not support the wind ordinance question that is currently on the ballot. I was unsure as to who authorized the printing of the ballot, but I now know because it was the town manager's responsibility. And that's why at the beginning of this meeting I said I had a question with our minutes from the September 10th meeting, because we had all agreed that there were so many changes that needed to be addressed in that wind ordinance that we tabled it to the next regular meeting. That next regular meeting never occurred because we didn't have a quorum, because 2 of the board members were absent, which is why we're here today. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball on a meeting that could have been set up. There were over 90 recommended changes made by Kristen Collins, who was our legal recommendation at the time. There was also a recommendation by John Maloney from AvCog in regards to the wind ordinance, stating that, in his professional opinion, the wind ordinance needs additional work prior to any voter action. We never had the opportunity to have that additional work because we never had the meeting. So the wind ordinance question went onto the ballot, and I discussed it with the town manager in his office, and we both had agreed that it needed changes. Obviously we had legal recommendation to make those changes, and it was suggested that we allow the town to vote on this ordinance question, and if they vote yes, we could just make the recommended changes afterward, which I thought was not appropriate, to put a document in front of the people to make a vote in this town that we knew in advance would be changing, because I felt that that would render that vote at the time useless or void. And the town manager just told me again that he was doing what the previous board asked him to do, and I understood that, what he said. However, the previous board was talking about a completely separate document. We've now received a document under legal review that they've asked us to change before putting it in front of the voters, and we've well, not we, but the town manager disregarded that and put it on the ballot anyway. As I said, we had a chance to discuss it, but we lacked a quorum, so we couldn't. I would emphasize, though, that in the past, there have been, and I have the newspaper article, there had been a removal of a ballot question from an ordinance because we didn't want, and I'll quote the article where Mrs. Clark said that we didn't want to put a unclear ordinance in front of the people, which is, I think, exactly what we're doing now, even more so now that legal has reviewed it and suggested we make all of these changes that we haven't made. I would say that we should not put this in front of the people and have them vote on a flawed ordinance, because I feel we're misguiding them. And my follow-up to that is, from the words of Mr. Carroll, there's no urgency in this matter. It could be voted on at a different time after we as a board review it and agree to make whatever recommended changes there are, because he even stated that they don't plan on doing anything for 1 to several years, that we're behind the Canton project. So I feel that there's no urgency here to try and jam a flawed document down the people's throats for a vote. That, also in the words of the attorney, Kristen, she writes in the back in her tabled notes that changing these things, amending the comprehensive plan, including a zoning map, or adding other areas of protection to the ordinance could further protect against a claim of inconsistency. And I think that's just what we're opening ourselves up to if we allow people to vote on this, is that there's going to be probably some legal action taken by whomever down the road that we've put a flawed ordinance in front of them. So my discussion, my suggestion at this time is that that's removed from the ballot before we sign this ballot, but that one question. As far as the other questions, I don't have any issues.
Basically what he said, and we have numerous times that this has gone in front of legal opinions, and we've even had, Gene has put it in the paper that it's been reviewed by the town's attorney. A few changes are made since the last time. This was back in May. Now we've come up with at least 90 more recommended changes, and we have a lawyer that puts, not in legal terms, but in my view, does not necessitate an additional public hearing. The point in Noreen's statement here that stands out is the ballot was not withdrawn for the sake of making it compatible with windmills. Several items were found to be unclear. Several items can be misinterpreted. Okay, now we have 90 that can be misinterpreted or unclear. And putting it in front of the people, as she stated, it needs to be clarified. All right, I still agree. It needs to be clarified. People shouldn't be voting on something that they're not aware of. To remove it from the ballot, in my opinion, took away from the hearing, because the hearing was on an ordinance that's been changed numerous times now. So if you were to ask anybody who was going to vote on this, they probably couldn't tell you half the stuff that they had been told the first time around.
I think the course of action is the selectmen need to review those changes, agree on whatever changes are in there, sit and discuss them, but we still run into the situation that we can agree on all those changes, but now we've got a totally changed document that there should be another public hearing on, so that the public is aware of what all of these changes, whether we approve all of them, some of them, none of them. I mean, it's under legal recommendation, so I would assume that we would follow legal advice.
Gene has told me numerous times, we want to do what the will of the people. Okay, well, let's let the people know what's going on and then do what the will of the people is. As we're standing right now, we have an ordinance that requires more changes if you go by legal, has been changed since the last time, has been changed since the ballot was pulled back. So if it's on the ballot now, then maybe they should be more aware of what's going on. I've no problem going forward with it as long as everybody gets a chance to hear what's going on with it and the changes that have been made to it.
The only other comment I had is that I think it was back in May that we had a discussion. I wasn't a selectman at the time, but I was present at the meeting and I was invited to speak. And the chairman wasn't the chairman at the time, but is now. And he stated during that meeting that he felt this was a huge decision for the town, which I did as well, and that we should make every effort to get it right. And I agree with him 100% that we should make every effort to get it right. However, presenting a document to the public for a vote when we've been advised against doing so without making the changes that are recommended opens up a messy can of worms.
Okay, I'll address that. You were at the meeting in May, and we sat around the board after our public hearing, which was 3 or 4 hours. You were one of the speakers, and Dan. And the discussion led to what we wanted to do. And we as a board decided at that time that it was important to get this before the public and get the largest group of people that we could get, which was the presidential election, and that we would take this ordinance and put it on the ballot so that it would be a referendum to the people of Dixfield to finally have a chance to vote yes or no on wind power. And that I look at this document, it needs some reconciliation with the comprehensive plan, and we also need language changes to make it smoother, easier to read, and better to understand. And at the time I told you, I said, this is the most important question that this town will face for a long time. And we need to do it during the presidential election, which is in 3 weeks, when we get the largest number of people to come before the town and vote. And I still stand by that. It's not the ordinance is a vehicle to get it before the people. Now, at this time, when we said that, both Bob and I said that we want to put this behind us, and we stated, both of us, that we would honor whichever way the vote went. We will take, if people vote it down, we will honor that. We will take the steps to do it. We also said if it's voted in, we will take the steps to do it. So basically, if we put this before the people, we know this changes have got to be made. And my feeling is that they can be made after the election. If it's voted down, we're going to have to write another ordinance anyway. So in both cases, you take it, the changes, you bring it back to the town meeting, or if it's voted down, you're going to bring an anti-wind ordinance and bring it before the town meeting and have it voted on. So my feeling is November 6th, it's time for the people to tell us what to do. It's time for them to make a decision on wind power. And I do not want to take that opportunity away, because it will not happen again until 2016. We will get the best turnout, and we will have people, we will understand what they want, and they'll give us direction. It's their turn to tell us. It shouldn't be us two or you two taking this away from them. We need to give